Welcome to the Start Something Show. Join world-renowned experts, change agents, and everyday folks who have done the amazing. All here to help you start something incredible. Now it's time to step out, live your perfect day, and create a legacy with your host, Tina Dietz.
Hey, welcome to the Start Something Show. It's Tina Dietz. Happy to have you here today. I am just coming off of a massive roller coaster. Just a couple of days ago, we opened up the doors and had this tremendous webinar that I'm sure you've heard about. I've mentioned it a bunch on the show here, called Create Your Business Oasis, and the response has been just spectacular. I'm so grateful that folks are resonating, as I had a feeling you would, with this message of creating your business oasis, the place where not just the people you serve are nourished and refreshed and served, but you are as well as the business owner. In this world of, in this time of needing to have sustainable practices in the environment, we also need sustainable practices for ourselves and our business. And I'm just so thrilled at the response that we're getting to this webinar. So the replay is still up for another couple of days. If you want to grab it, it's not too late to do that. We've also opened the doors for registration for the Create Your Business Oasis course, which is paired with our brand new Superstarters Elite membership program. We're in beta mode right now, so it's never going to be a better time to join in this community and build your business oasis with some fantastic, fantastic people. 10,000 thriving businesses, that's what we're building. So head on over to yourbusinessoasis.com if you want to check that out. And on the show today, I'm really happy to bring on one of my lovely colleagues. Lori Kennedy is a really brilliant businesswoman and a brilliant health practitioner. She has the Wellness Business Academy, and she does live events as well as online events for wellness business professionals to help them build their business like she did as a wellness professional. So let's get right over to her interview and check that out right now. Alrighty, my dears. Today I'm delighted to introduce you to Lori Kennedy, the owner of the Wellness Business Academy and the Wellness Business Summit. She is growing a community of passionate and ambitious health leaders who are working together to achieve the company's $1 million mission and changing the way healthcare gets done. Thank goodness. Lori helps people learn how to leverage the internet for their business so you can play big and serve more people, which is the point as far as I'm concerned. So Lori, thank you so much for starting something with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is really cool. So you were a wellness practitioner yourself, is that right?
Yes, I started off in 1999 as a personal trainer and did that throughout university and throughout some traveling around the world, and then realized that my clients, weren't really getting the results that they wanted, in addition to, struggling with my own health issues. So in 2006, 2007, I went back to school to become a registered holistic nutritionist.
Oh, wow. And what made you pick that particular field?
So when I was, when I was born, it starts when I was born.
Take us back, Lori.
I was likely born with some gut issues. And that showed up, throughout my whole life, like in terms of ear infections, just some like lady problems, No, I didn't want to like TMI it, but, ear infections, really bad PMS symptoms, just ongoing digestive system issues. And so when I was 16, 17, 18, my digestive system basically just shut down. This was before I became a trainer. And I went to all different types of doctors, and lo and behold, they gave me a prescription for like an antacid, right? Like as if I had acid reflux. And the digestive system symptoms were awful. Like I would sporadically throw up. I literally couldn't digest my food. But they just told me I have acid reflux. And I knew that I didn't have acid reflux because I was dead tired. I was putting on pounds at like a ferocious rate, and my life was just health-wise spiraling out of control. I had like crazy hypoglycemic symptoms, and there's just too much going on for it to just be acid reflux. But after scopes and this and that, they couldn't find anything. And then I went away to university and I became a trainer, and I went to a naturopathic doctor who I totally credit with transforming my health. And she taught me all about my gut, and she went through all of my health symptoms literally since I was born, because I was born by cesarean section, and what that meant for me, and all of my health symptoms, and put them into this category called Candida, which is a systemic yeast fungal overgrowth that infiltrates your entire body, which basically I had, which if I don't keep in check comes back and it's nasty. And if any of you have ever had Candida, or if you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly how I felt. And that really motivated me and turned me onto the power of food, and turned me onto the ability that we, to some degree, have control over our health. And so first step was a trainer. Second step was actually going back and learning holistic nutrition.
Well, it sounds as though that your entrepreneurial journey started fairly young then, because, becoming a trainer and working your way through school, doing that is not a venture that most, 18-year-olds would take on. What do you credit giving you your entrepreneurial spirit?
It's funny because the only real quote unquote like employee jobs I've ever had was as a gymnastics coach, which was still, health and wellness, and as like a fishmonger in a
fishmonger.
A fishmonger. I worked for 3.5 years in the fish department at my local grocery store. And several, probably about 17 different jobs that I was fired from.
You too. Okay, good.
Yeah,
all right,
totally.
Yeah.
So it was very obvious to me early on that I was in deep trouble if I didn't learn how to make money for myself.
That's okay. You're in good company. That's a common theme among guests here at the show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But you know what? Interestingly, when you're 17 years old and you've just been fired 3 times and no one tells you about entrepreneurship, you just feel like a big loser. So it was a huge learning curve for me. And so I didn't think of becoming a personal trainer as being an entrepreneur. I just enjoyed it. And I was living out of my hometown in a place that spoke French. So I was living in Montreal, going to university there, and I'm English speaking. And so I took my personal training certification there. So I had to find an English speaking gym. And so I still had phrases of French on my notepad so that if I had a French client,
you could make it work. Yeah.
I could communicate with 3 sentences, because the rest, they just had to look at what I was doing. So, I didn't really think about, back in 1999 as being an entrepreneur. I never really thought of myself as being a entrepreneur or business owner until after my first year of failure, when I opened up my private practice in nutrition.
And that's when the shift happened for you. So tell me how the failure led to the breakthrough, because I'm getting that that's where the path is leading us here.
Yes, exactly. So when I graduated in 2007, I did what every health practitioner, or service provider basically would do. And I went and rented a space. And I signed my name to a 12-month lease. I did a website. I got business cards. I did everything that the, traditional service provider was supposed to do, except that none of it resulted in me getting clients, because I didn't know how to actually market myself. I just had these things that I was told to do that I did. And so within about 18 months, I had to get out of that rental agreement or the lease agreement. The website wasn't doing anything. The business cards, the free seminar posters, none of it was working. And I had to go back to working at the gym, as a personal trainer. And it was only then that I realized, I need to sell nutrition the way that gyms sell personal training packages. And it was this aha moment that, I need a sales process. I need consultations, not just assessments where I gave them, the farm away for free, but I needed a legitimate process where I could, talk to strangers, sign them up, sell them on a package, not just a one-off session, and then renew them, which is unheard of in health and wellness.
And so very, very needed. You and I were talking a little bit before the show and talking about some of the pitfalls that most wellness practitioners don't get, health and wellness don't get in their training, most of which is business. They don't, what were we saying? Most massage therapists get about 2 to 4 hours of business training, something like that. But yet 60% of them, I believe, work for themselves.
Correct.
That's not a great ratio.
No,
No.
it's not helpful.
Not helpful. Not
No.
really helpful.
No.
So then what were some of the keys that you learned along the way as you started learning how to be a business owner, not just be a practitioner?
So the first thing really was my mindset. The first thing really was not self-identifying as my professional title. My profession was that of a nutritionist, but my identity needed to be that of an entrepreneur / CEO, not even just a business owner. I didn't want to self-employ myself. I wanted to create something from nothing. And so that came as a huge shocker to me because I had never thought of myself in that way before. I would have, when someone said to me, what do you do? I was like, oh, I'm a nutritionist. I would never say I'm an entrepreneur or I'm a business owner. Or I would never say, I founder of blah, blah, private practice. And so the first thing that I did, and this took about 5 years, like from 2007 to about 2011, I studied the fitness industry and I really took pieces out of what was working in the gyms because at that point I was running my nutrition practice out of the gyms. And using basically the group fitness model and the PT sales package model to run my private practice. So, in the sense of like selling packages and understanding a sales structure and a sales process. So I really started to learn and study sales after I recognized that I'm a business woman. I'm not just a nutritionist. So I took it upon myself to learn sales and understand sales psychology by reading books. Up until that point, it never occurred to me to even open a business book because I didn't identify as a businesswoman. I was a nutritionist. So the only books I read were on nutrition. And so really, really diving into the world of sales and marketing and really trying to understand what systems and strategies within sales and marketing could I apply to the nutrition world. There was no business coaches that I knew of. There was no, webinars at that point. It was really like Zig Ziglar that I learned from.
Zig Ziglar. But you know what? If people just did go and pick up one of Zig's, training courses at the library, it would still do them 100% world of good.
It was honestly, I devoured every book. And, I was reading books for real estate people and I was reading books for, they had some personal training, business books, but they're written in also the 80s, the 90s. The internet, there wasn't that transformation yet. So then in 2011, I had my second kid and I decided I've had enough of running my business on other people's off hours, as service professionals often have to do, then accommodate to our clients, which is nights and weekends. And so at that point, I made a decision that I was going to pivot again and try and figure out a way to run my business so that I didn't have to put my two little kids in daycare and do the constant, Mom, can you babysit tonight because I have to work? My husband's not home from work, and just the shuffle. I was tired of the shuffling. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know anything about the online world at that point. I didn't know anything about online marketing or sales or funnels or launches or none of it. I had been in the gym industry since 1999, basically. And that model was working until I had kids. It worked until I had kids.
Well, it's when your values change that, things start to work or not work, as the case may be, as your life changes. And that's really the conundrum that most people don't realize, that, we have the power as entrepreneurs to fit our business to our lifestyle. It doesn't have to be the other way around.
Right.
And that goes back to that mindset again. So then, you then ended up evolving your business into the academy and the summit. Mm-hmm. Now, what made you decide to go national, as it were, or go global, and develop these two very robust, very well built out, not just events, but an entire wellness business academy for folks. That's quite an enormous undertaking. That's no joke.
No, it's no joke. So as I was growing my private practice, I had a weight loss program that, because I I sort of grew up in the gym industry, I really did take a page out of the group fitness model, and I turned my entire one-to-one business into a one-to-many business offline. So I had multiple groups going at the same time, and I minimized my one-to-one clients. And I would have 12 people in a group, and I would run, maybe 2, maybe 3 groups every 12 weeks. So I was seeing more people, but I was literally working like 10 hours a week, which is amazing. And then I had friends and colleagues asking me, how do you do that? How do you set up your packages? What do you charge? How does this work? Like, how are you, seeing all of these clients working at 4 different gyms, and like, you're only out of the house like 1 or 2 nights a week for an hour. Like, how did you do this? And so this was in 2011. And this is right around the time where I was like, I need to change my life. I just don't know how. And someone said to me, why don't you do a webinar and teach these people, what you're doing? And I was like, oh, great idea. So my son was 3 months old. I sat in my bed, nursing and sweaty and all that fun stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I ran this webinar, this 2-day, basically it was 2 days. It was a 2-day thing that I put together where I taught about 35, 40 nutritionists how to create a group program, because it wasn't taught. It was only the one-to-one model was taught. And then the light bulb went off and I went, oh, so this is how I'm going to change my life. Webinars. And I didn't know that webinars were part of this whole like online thing. I didn't know anything about it. So then I started searching out for people who run webinars, people in the fitness industry. And I came across this business coach who was out of California, and he was in the fitness industry. And I followed him, and everything he said, I absorbed. Like, I was a sponge, hours and hours and hours of watching every video he ever did, and read every blog post, and got on his email list, and went to his event in March of 2012. And at that point I said, okay, I need to learn every single aspect that I need to learn to build my business online. And I did both for a long time. Up until last year, I ran my nutrition private practice offline and online. And I grew my business coaching side of it to teach health practitioners, healers, and coaches how to do what I was doing, both online and offline. And so last year I had to make the decision to say, you know what, I'm going to close my private nutrition practice for a bit, because I want everything to be solely online. And that leads me to here. And the reason that I built out the academy was because there is no one single program for health practitioners, healers, and coaches that takes you through the first year of startup.
Exactly. It's a beautiful niche to fill, and one that's very, very much needed. And there's a lot of, client education that needs to go along with that too, because there's still this pervasive mindset in the wellness industry that fortunately is changing. I'd love to see it change faster. I'm sure you would too. If you are someone who really wants to help people, you need to find ways to let people know what you have to offer. And that's called marketing.
Yes.
In a nutshell.
Yes.
That's basically it.
Yes.
Yeah, basically. So I love that you shared this process that you went through, because so many times we hear these overnight success stories, and most overnight success stories are at least 10 years in the making. Mm-hmm. And so this journey that you described, I really appreciate you going into the detail of it, because people need to know that this sort of thing just doesn't pop up overnight. Right. And it really does. It takes time. It takes time. And anyone who tells you it doesn't really is trying to sell you something, and not in a good way.
No, and not in a good way. And I think too that, the reality is when you create something from nothing, it's not a straight line to success. There are, mountains, and there's valleys, and then there's holes in the ground that you have to go through. And I forget sometimes that my journey started in 1999, but it did, because I only really think of it as the last 5 years that I've taken my business online. But, everything, and I'm sure for all of the people listening, it's all of your experience that will get you to where you want to be.
Absolutely. And Superstarters, for those of you listening, I invite you to go back to the show notes page on the startsomethingshow.com, because Lori has given us a 5-page online business startup checklist that gives you a detailed checklist of everything you need to set up your online business, in addition to a step-by-step guide to build out your email newsletter campaigns and your first email sales funnel. Really nice, very concise 5-page checklist. I really like the way you put that together. It's really valuable. Even me looking at the processes as an established entrepreneur that I go through all the time. And you never get past the shiny ball syndrome. You never really get past the squirrel brain that we have because we're creative people. So it's really nice to have something to wrangle ourselves into some semblance of order. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one of the things that I've tried to really pay attention to is specifically for any sort of startup. I think it's one thing if you're starting your business offline, that has its own, issues. But if you have to then go and recreate an entire offline business online or start from scratch, you really just want to be told, do this first, then do this second. Now go and do this, right? And it may or may not work. It's the testing, but you won't ever know that until you get the steps.
That's very true. What do you think that, in your experience, wellness professionals specifically struggle with the most when they're dealing with the business side of their business? The business side of their practice, I should say.
I can tell you actually concretely, because I just ran a survey and I got about 220 responses, and the top 3 blocks for health practitioners was time and not knowing what to do with that time. So it's either they had it or they didn't have it. But if they did have it, they didn't know what to do with it. Like in terms of first, second, and third steps. Fear. So fear of being successful, but also fear of not knowing enough. Fear of being said no to, right? Like the no, I don't want to work with you kind of thing. Fear of putting themselves out there. And then the other one was the tech, really. It's really understanding how all of these platforms interlace and how you use them together. Because it's one thing to go and learn, let's say, Facebook, but it's quite another to really understand the strategy of how to use Facebook or how to use any social media platform. Because if you look at from the back end, it's all the same. Right? Like the strategy of how to use them is all the same. The culture and the languaging might be different per each social media platform. But once you get someone to click, what happens then is basically all the same.
I see what you're saying. So so it's a matter of getting to the point of the click.
Right. And so the setting up of these tech platforms is really scary and overwhelming for a lot of people. So they don't get past that point to really learn the strategies. If they did it the other way around and took time to understand like the marketing strategies, then the setting it up wouldn't feel so daunting because they would understand it. They would understand what they're doing.
Exactly. When you know what you're going to be doing with something, right, then you don't feel like you're floundering, just trying to figure it out all the time. You're in there for a purpose, and then not jacking up both your fear and your concern about time. Right. Exactly. As it all kind of dovetails together.
Exactly. So learning the fundamentals really of business, of sales and marketing, before you go and spend money on anything, frankly.
That's a very good point. All right. Well, you are going to be joining us on the Backstage Pass and teaching us and our superstarters about online launches, which is obviously, a super big deal. Yeah. whether somebody's launching a book, a webinar, a course, even one-on-one packages, it's such a fantastic way to get the word out about who they are. And I think we're also probably going to be dispelling some myths about online launches, like, that you need to have a big email list to be successful. So is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to that conversation. So Superstarters, I want you to go over to the startsomethingshow.com, join our group join our membership, and make sure that you have access to that fantastic teaching along with all of our experts who are contributing each and every week here on the Start Something show. Lori, before I let you go, just to give folks a tip for the week as they're stepping out into the world, if you had to give folks one piece of advice that would produce results for them this week as they're out starting something, what's something powerful they can do to move their business forward?
Wake up 30 minutes earlier in your day and get one thing done, finished, that is directly tied to revenue. So whether that's sending out an email or finishing a program or connecting with someone who can be a good referral source, it's always so important to start your day fresh, but also completing a critical task that will drive your business forward.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. Love it. It's something I do myself and highly recommend it to everyone else as well. It's kind of addictive. After you start doing it, you start going like, oh, this really works. I think I'll get up an hour earlier.
Yeah, I get up in a 15 hour. And it's funny because when I don't get up that early now, I'm not the same person in my day. I'm not as calm. I'm not as focused. It's like everything changes if I don't get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
anymore.
that practice makes such a huge difference. Oh, I'll have to text you at like 5 a.m. going, morning.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for being on the show today, my dear. It's been great having you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And thank you, Superstarters, for listening. Take it all into your week. Enjoy. Join us back on next week on the show. And remember, you can always visit us at thestartsomethingshow.com for lots more goodies, more shows, and more to support you in your business journey. We'll see you next week.
Start something with purpose. Start something with freedom. Start something now. Go to thestartsomethingshow.com, join our community of superstarters, and get your perfect day planner pack, a free resource to help you create the life you've dreamed of living. Take action now, and we'll see you for our next exciting episode.